The toilet seat was up. I stood there looking at it, wondering if it meant what I thought it meant. My wife Sally has a pet peeve. If I left it like that, she would have a seizure, so I lowered the seat after I finished my business. I just returned home from a 3-day trip with a client from out of town. 2 hours and a couple of beers on the plane, and then another hour in traffic before I got home at 9 in the evening. After a quick hug and kiss with Sally, I headed straight to the bedroom closet and made my discovery. Sally is my second wife. Some say my trophy wife. She is a beauty, 5 feet 2 inches tall and built like a Playboy model. She is 20 years younger than my 48 and a very cheerful, friendly person. I divorced my first wife because I discovered that she was cheating on me, and, probably, my story still arouses my natural suspicions. Also, being a lawyer allows me to see some of the nastiest parts of people. I had no other reason to suspect Sally of cheating. Our sex life was good, or at least I thought so, and I never noticed any change in her attitude towards me. But like I said, being a lawyer, my firm is big and I'm the managing partner, which means I make a lot of money, so Sally doesn't have to work. She just has to be pretty for me. We engage in all types of legal activities with each partner specializing in a specific area. So I went to chat with our guy who is dealing with domestic issues, including divorce. Once burned, I once forced him to draw up a marriage agreement sealed with iron ties. Yes, I was pretty well protected. He agreed that if we could prove infidelity, she was gone. I really love this girl, but I'm not going to be a cuckold in my own home, so we set the ball rolling. We hire a private firm to handle all sorts of investigations, from insurance fraud to adultery. And a few days later, word came that Sally had met a young man for lunch, and they had driven in her car to a local motel for a few hours. Detectives were unable to identify him or observe what happened in the motel room. A repeat performance took place a few days later at another restaurant and motel. The following week, I had to visit a client from another city for 2 days. There was a report that a young man came to my house about an hour after I left and stayed the night. This time they got his ID from the car registration. It turned out that this guy was her high school sweetheart. I don't think she ever grew up. Anyway, now my guys have come in, hooked up phones to record, installed VCRs in all the rooms where cheaters are likely to play, and even a microphone in the upholstery of the headboard of the marital bed. 2 weeks later, I left town for another 2-day trip. When I returned, the investigators had a lot of things for me, everything recorded, video and audio with time and date stamps. He arrived in the late afternoon, parked his car in my driveway, used his key, and simply walked in the front door. He didn't even have to call. She gave him the key. She met him in the hallway wearing a garter belt, thigh-high stockings, and high heels. Nothing more. She was gorgeous, sexy, and so desirable. That's why I married her. But now it was for someone else. She threw herself into his arms, wrapped her arms around his neck, and kissed him. Her body pressed against him, his hands cupped her ass, and they stood there for several minutes, just tasting each other. Now I knew why she was so good with me in bed. She took his hand and led him into the living room, where they kissed again. Soon she was sitting on the edge of the sofa, and he was kneeling in front of her, his face buried in her womb. He must have been pretty good. Then he turned her over on her knees, facing away from him, and brought her to a screaming orgasm from behind. She was hot, and he was a stud. It's time for a break. While she was pouring the martini, he finished undressing and they sat down, naked, drinking and discussing their plans. They wanted to run away together, but they didn't have money. I gave her some valuable jewelry worth over $1 million, but it was in our safe deposit box and she couldn't access it without me. I, on the other hand, could get to the safe without her. Sally said, "I know how we can get a lot of money from my husband." "How?" "Kidnap me?" "What?" "I mean, fake." "How?" "We have to go to a big wedding in a few weeks. He will want me to dress to the nines with all my jewelry. He likes to show me off. During the wedding reception, I will disappear with all my jewelry. I'll board the plane and be in Rio de Janeiro by morning. In the meantime, you will leave a note demanding a ransom of $5 million for my safe return. After you receive the money, you can join me in Rio." The stupid shit bought the idea, and they went back to having sex. He took her in different positions that I had never even thought of, let alone performed. On the stairs, and later in the bedroom. The sounds she made were amazing. This guy behaved in a way that I never knew how to do, but that was no excuse for her behavior, and I was determined to make them pay for it. All of her jewelry was custom-made, and I had replicas of each piece in fake metals and base stones. I know how insurance works and didn't want to take any chances. When the time came for the wedding, I gave her fake jewelry. She never noticed the difference. Well, she disappeared as planned and flew to Rio. I was glad to let her go. As far as I knew, she had almost no money with her, except for some pocket change. I canceled all her credit cards and closed her joint bank accounts. I don't even know if she had enough money to stay in a hotel. When he tried to collect the ransom, the cops were waiting for him. He received 5 years for attempted extortion. Serves the hole in the ass right. He should have lowered the toilet seat. Subscribe to our channel so that your second chaff doesn't cheat on you, and go ahead and listen to the next story, because this story is nothing compared to the next one. If you're under 18, don't even think about listening to the next one. Listening